Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Cody, and I'm an everyday compound athlete currently training to run my first marathon in just under 20 weeks from now. As a compound athlete, my approach to training is composed of mixing together a range of different fitness activities and elements. With racing a marathon as my current goal, that mix is currently running, strength training, and mobility work. And despite being an everyday and casual athlete, I still want to maximize my efforts and optimize my training to reach my goals. To help me do that, I love incorporating technology into my training, and at this point, I've tested out just about every fitness device out there, from Apple and Garmin watches, to Whoop bands and Oura rings, to Theraguns and compression boots, and even smart mattresses like the 8 Sleep to optimize recovery. So, today, I'm excited to unbox and take a look at a new device that I'm really excited about incorporating into my training, and that's the Stryd Next Gen Footpod. This thing is a wearable device that clips onto your shoe and communicates with your running watch to optimally pace you, with the aim of helping you run at the right intensity by alerting you to slow down or to speed up in real time. To do that, Stryd is built around the concept of running with power, which was a foreign concept to me until I fell into a Reddit-fueled vortex of researching what exactly running with power is and why anybody does it. And after I emerged from that and I read a few in-depth reviews, big shout out to Road Trail Run for their awesome deep dive, I was convinced enough that I wanted to give Stryd a try and see whether running with power could further help me with my own marathon training. To date, most of my training has been oriented around heart rate training and focusing on an 80-20 approach, with 80% of my runs taking place in zone 2, with the other 20% being a mix of speed and tempo work. To dial in my heart rate zones, I completed a VO2 max and lactate threshold test earlier this year, and I was able to get a pretty precise range on where I needed to be training heart rate wise for different types of effort. And while heart rate training has been effective for me to date, it's become much more difficult to adhere to as it's turned to summer in New York City and the temperature and humidity have both skyrocketed. Heat has an outsized impact on heart rate, and regardless of whether I stick to an easy effort or a conversational pace, my heart rate quickly eclipses the usual range for its equivalent in milder conditions. And that's definitely not to say that I shouldn't be tuning into that and adjusting my workouts accordingly for the heat, but as we get deeper into summer and I ramp up my marathon training, heart rate just isn't going to be the most reliable indicator to guide my runs. So I'll be focusing more on my RPE, or rate of perceived exertion, and with the Stryd, now power as well. For me, one of the most compelling things about using Stryd and focusing on power is the simplification of focusing on a single metric built around the concept of critical power. Once I have my power zones defined by Stryd after the app initially calculates my critical power, which I'll go into a bit more detail on how that works later on, all I need to do is stay within a specific power range for the duration of my run. And the really nice thing about power is that it's a consistent metric to track. Unlike heart rate or pace, which you might need to adjust for running uphill or downhill, your power target doesn't change. So let's say I have a goal of running at 255 watts. I can just go out and run at that pace the entire time without needing to speed up or slow down for any hills. Stryd is super easy to set up, and it works in tandem with your running watch of choice, which for me is my Apple Watch Ultra. There's an awesome iPhone and Apple Watch app that makes tracking your runs and analyzing your data from the Footpod super easy. In the app, Stryd has a full library of different workouts and training plans that you can follow. Within the workouts, there are 2 sections for critical power calibration and critical power tests, which I'll pause to explain now. At its simplest, critical power is the power output that your body maxes out at when you reach lactate threshold. And lactate threshold is the point during exercise when lactate builds up in the bloodstream faster than the body's able to remove it. And it's essentially the border between low and high intensity work. Now, Stryd is able to auto-calculate your critical power as you complete a range of different runs, and the most accurate number will result from completing a specific range of runs that Stryd recommends, including short, all-out 30-second sprints, a hard 5K to 10K effort, and an easy long run over 45 minutes. You could also complete a manual critical power test and input that into the Stryd app to override the auto-calculated number, but Stryd says that their number works pretty well and about 95% of runners should rely on that. There's a third and kind of hybrid approach, which is to complete one of the critical power tests that Stryd has in the app's workout library, and to then allow Stryd to auto-calculate based on that and your normal mix of easy runs and workouts. If you want to try out any of these critical power tests, you can easily export them to your watch along with any other workouts in the Stryd library and follow them with step-by-step instructions while you're working out. Stryd also has a mix of training plans that you can check out and a few other tabs of data within the app. Within the watch app itself, you're able to set up data screens and customize what you want to see while you're actually running. There are a bunch of different metrics you can select from, which is awesome. You can also add multiple screens to easily toggle through during your run, which is super nice for all of the data nerds like me. Stryd has integrations with all the major ecosystem apps like Strava, Final Surge, and Training Peaks, so after you set those up in the app, your run will automatically export whenever you finish up. Attaching the Stryd pod onto your shoes only takes a few seconds, and it's super easy to switch between any pairs of shoes that you want to run in. One thing that I'm still not entirely certain about is how Stryd works across different shoes and whether there's any difference in data between something like my Gel Nimbus 25s that I use for easy runs and my carbon-plated Endorphin Pro 3s that I use for racing. If you happen to have any good information on that, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. And with that, I'm now all set to get started with my Stryd and to experiment running with power. I'll be back with my thoughts on the Stryd after I've had some time to thoroughly play around with it. I hope this has been helpful for anyone else interested in the Stryd Footpod, and if it was, please remember to like and subscribe below to help the channel grow.